Hi, I'm Mike, founder of GoodBed. Today we're going to take you through the entire collection of Beautyrest World Class mattresses, which has just been released for 2025 and beyond. There are both quilted and hybrid constructions represented in this collection, and 15 total models in all. We're going to take you through all 15 of them. Stick around. Now, before we dive into the World Class models, I want to give you a quick picture of where Beautyrest World Class fits in to the broader Beautyrest product portfolio. They basically have 4 overall product lines at Beautyrest. It starts actually with Beauty Sleep. That's their entry-level collection. Then it moves into their core collection of just Beautyrest mattresses, which you will also see under the names Level 1 and Level 2. Then you have the Beautyrest World Class models that we're going to show you in this video, which also go by the names Level 3 and Level 4, and then that leads into their top-of-the-line collection, which is Beautyrest Black. And then generally speaking, within each of those lines, you're going to have both quilted and hybrid mattress options. All right, so now let's dive into Beautyrest World Class. And as I just alluded to, you can kind of think of the Beautyrest World Class line as being divided into 4 quadrants. You have Level 3 and Level 4, and then you also have both hybrid and quilted. And so in total, you're going to have 15 models across those 4 quadrants. You're going to have essentially 3 hybrids at each of the 2 levels, and then you're going to have 5 quilted models at Level 3 and 4 at Level 4. But let's start by diving into the features that all 15 of these models across all 4 of those quadrants are all going to have in common. And I think the first place to start there is with the support unit. This is going to be a support unit that is not only an upgrade from what you're going to get in the collection below, that core collection of Beautyrest mattresses, which, by the way, we did cover in another video. So if you're interested in those Level 1 or Level 2 models, you should definitely check out that video. But you're going to get an upgraded coil unit here at this level, and also it is an upgrade from the previous generation of Beautyrest mattresses that were kind of at this level, which were known as Harmony Luxe. And on top of that, it is a coil unit that is really a hallmark historically of the Beautyrest brand. So this specific coil unit uses pocketed coil construction, and that is the kind of core characteristic that Beautyrest really built its name on. The idea of having coils that were able to move independently from one another. They were the inventors of this technology, and they really built their brand around it from day one. And this particular coil unit is going to have a 1,000 coil density. So it's going to be a very dense configuration of coils with a lot of steel in there. And it's also going to have a foam rail, a very firm foam rail running around that coil unit on all sides of the mattress to give these mattresses a nice strong edge. So that is a foam perimeter that they call Beauty Edge. I mentioned that this is an upgrade both from the previous generation as well as from the collection or the line below this. That is in terms of the amount of steel that you have at work here in this coil unit. You have simply a higher density of coils and just more overall metal at work for you in the support layer of this mattress. This particular, as I mentioned, is 1,000 coil density. What you have in that core collection of Beautyrest mattresses is an 875 coil density. And then there's one more thing that you ought to know about the coil layers of these mattresses that is actually not the same in every mattress, but thematically is something that is unique to Beautyrest, which is that they will actually use different coil units, different firmness coil units in different models. Specifically, they've got 2 kind of configurations of coils that they will use across this Beautyrest World Class collection, a firm version and a plush version. And there is a difference between the it's basically just the same size coils, same coil density, same general amount of metal, except the wires in the plush version are just a tiny bit thinner, creating a little bit softer coils. Obviously, that's designed to provide a little bit more gentle support and gentle spinal alignment for people who maybe don't need as robust a coil unit. So those coils are generally going to be found in plusher models in this collection. A good rule of thumb in the quilted lineup is that anything that is a plush is likely to use the plush coils. Anything else is likely to use the firm coils. However, in the hybrid models that we're going to show you, it's really more the firm models that use the firm coil and the others that will tend to use the plusher coil. So they did that on purpose in order to just create a wider range of feels within this collection and wider range of support levels. So that's most of what you need to know about the support layer of all of these Beautyrest World Class models. And the other thing I would just add to that is that you may hear in Beautyrest's marketing or on their website them talking about a few kind of hallmark characteristics of these products and of their brand, including motion isolation as well as individualized support. I would add to that adjustable base compatibility. These are all characteristics that are kind of intrinsic and stem from this Beautyrest pocketed coil support core. Those pocketed coils, because of the ability to kind of move independently of one another, they're able to conform more closely to your curves of your body, no matter what those curves may be. And also they are able to move independently in such a way that someone on one side of the bed won't be disturbed by what's happening on the other side of the bed. And likewise, they can bend and flex without being damaged or in any way compromised when being used on an adjustable base. So those are just kind of characteristics that also come with this support unit and are going to be found in any of these Beautyrest World Class mattresses. Now, in terms of other characteristics that are going to be shared across this entire Beautyrest World Class collection, the remainder of those would be found in the cover. You're going to have specifically a cooling feature that's going to be found on all of these mattresses that they call InfiniCool. And essentially what this is the fabric used in the cover of the mattress is treated with a phase change material. And if you're not familiar with what a phase change material is from maybe other videos that we've done, basically it is microscopic wax beads that when heat from your body reaches them, change phases from a solid to a liquid. And as they're doing that, they're essentially drawing heat away from you, and that creates the sensation of coolness. And in our labs, we've been able to actually measure the effectiveness of this with various products that use phase change material and actually confirm that the cooling is experienced for as long as 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how much phase change material is used, of course, but that being long enough for the average person to feel cool and comfortable during those critical moments while they're falling asleep. So that InfiniCool feature is going to be present on all Beautyrest World Class mattresses. And then sticking with this sort of external wrapping of the mattress, I would just also add that all of the side panels are going to be pretty much the same across these world-class mattresses, and that includes 4 handles on every mattress. You're going to have essentially 2 handles on each side of the mattress, which are totally functional, and I can tell you from firsthand experience as someone who moves a lot of mattresses around, are very helpful anytime you need to rotate or move your mattress for any reason. All right, so now let's get into the quilted models, and just to give you a little preview, we're going to go through all the quilted models, level 3 and level 4 first, and then we're going to take you through the hybrid side of the line after that. So let's now get into some of the features that are common to all of the quilted models within Beautyrest World Class, which does open up even some more features that we have not yet talked about. Number 1 being right up at the top of the cover, we talked about the InfiniCool, that is the phase change material treatment applied to the cover fabric. In addition to that, you also have another feature that is a cooling feature, which is the use of polyethylene fibers in the cover, which is a higher density yarn that is effectively woven into the cover fabric. And the effect of that is that this higher density yarn adds some coolness to the touch. And so the reason that works, by the way, is that a higher density material will have an inherent coolness to the touch in much the same way that a marble countertop would have more inherent coolness to it than, say, a lower density material like a wood table. So all of the quilted world-class models are going to have that polyethylene fiber in addition to the phase change material in their cover, and that combination is what Beautyrest refers to as InfiniCool Max. Now, in addition to that InfiniCool Max, you're also going to find 2 other features that are going to be common across all of these Beautyrest world-class quilted mattresses that pertain to this quilt area. The first is an antimicrobial treatment applied to the quilt, which is designed simply to just keep your mattress fresh over time. And the second is a feature that they call Natural Luxe Fibers. And this is something that, frankly, I don't claim to fully understand, but as it's been explained to me, this is vertically aligned fibers that live in the sort of upper part of the quilt that essentially create a pocket or a channel through which air can flow sort of horizontally across the surface of the mattress more easily. So that's about the level on which it's been explained to me, or that I've at least retained it. So That does sound like a cooling feature, of course, but I can't speak to it with much more certainty than that. So now, moving beyond the quilt and the top part of the mattress, there are actually 3 more features that all of these quilted Beautyrest World Class mattresses are going to have in common in the comfort layers of the mattress. And they are all different types of foam that Beautyrest is introducing as part of this newly redesigned collection. The first is a surface touch gel memory foam that's going to be present as you might expect, right up near the surface of all of these mattresses. You're going to get at least 3/4 of an inch of that material in all of the quilted world-class mattresses. And that is just basically a memory foam that is designed to be really close to your body so that you can kind of maximize the pressure relieving benefits of that foam. The second is a brand new foam that they call World Class Relief HD foam. And I wish I had a sample of it here to show you, but essentially this foam is described to me as kind of a combination of memory foam and latex, which I take to mean is a polyurethane foam that is higher density like latex, but it also does have some delayed recovery properties and higher pressure relieving capabilities like memory foam. So it's kind of drawing from both of those in multiple ways. Either way, I'll be able to describe to you what we see to be the effects of this material as it's used in the various models in this collection. All right, so now we're going to get into some of the specific models that are available in this world-class quilted collection here, starting with the level 3 models. But these models, I just want to clarify too that the models that we talk about here today, this is the full set of available models that Beautyrest is making, and they wanted to offer a wide range of feels, but naturally, retailers, brick and mortar retailers in particular, have limited floor space, and they're not going to be able to floor all of these choices. So you're not going to find any stores that carry all of these options. That being said, it might be helpful for you to know that these options exist so that you can look for them if they feel particularly applicable to you. And most likely these will be available for purchase from Beautyrest's website, and certainly we will have information about each of these models on GoodBed. So as we go through these models, I want to give you just a general sense of how they compare in terms of their feel. When we think about feel, we look at 4 key attributes. We look at softness, which is obviously just the amount of softness that you're interacting with as you quickly move around on the mattress. The second characteristic is cushioning depth, which is the degree to which you will sink into the mattress or to which it will conform to your body as you lie on it over time. The third is memory feel, which is the degree of that sort of slow melting into the mattress sensation and or the amount of sort of delayed recovery that you'll experience on different materials in the mattress. And then the fourth characteristic is bounce, which is obviously just the amount of kind of overall liveliness or peppiness of the mattress, whether at the surface or down at the deep levels of the mattress when you plop your whole weight down on it. And in each of these characteristics, it's really important to note that these are what we call preference-based characteristics, meaning there is no universal better or worse with any of these characteristics. There is only better or worse for your personal preferences. We therefore put these on a 1 through 9 spectrum, with 9 being more, 1 being less, but not being better or worse. So in our softness spectrum, 9 is the softest, 1 is the firmest, 5 is average or medium, but none of those is obviously superior to the other. The only thing that matters is what's best for you personally. So now, in terms of the choices you're going to have of specific models, let's start with level 3, where there will be 5 different models available, 3 tight tops and 2 pillow tops. The tight tops are going to be an extra firm, a medium firm, and a plush, and then the pillow tops will be a medium pillow top and a plush pillow top. They're going to range in height between 14 and 16 inches, so no matter what, these are robust, hefty, thick mattresses that you're talking about here, even the tight tops. So now, in terms of how we rated the feel of these models on our scale, we would classify the extra firm as a 2 on our softness scale, which is very firm. We would classify the medium firm as a 3, which is what we would call firm. We would classify the plush as a 5, which is what we call medium. The medium pillow top we'd classify as a 4, which is our medium firm. And the plush pillow top we'd classify as a 6, which is our medium soft. So between those 5 models, on our scale, you end up with something at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So really a nice array of choices that you have in terms of the softness levels. And in terms of cushioning depth, which if you don't already know from other videos we've done, is really the difference between sort of sleeping in your mattress versus sleeping on your mattress, kind of how much hugged or cradled sensation you end up getting on the mattress. Oftentimes this does correlate closely with softness, but not always. In this case, we did find that it correlated pretty closely. In fact, with the 3 tight tops, we would actually rate their softness levels and cushioning depth levels as exactly the same, meaning that the cushioning depth of the extra firm would be a 2, of the medium would be a 3, and of the plush would be a 5. With respect to the 2 pillow top models, we found that those had a little bit more sinkage, a little bit more conformance than they did softness. So in those cases, we would say that the medium pillow top had a 5 on the cushioning depth scale, and the plush pillow top had a 7. In terms of memory feel, we did talk about how there is going to be at least 1 3/4 inches of memory foam in each of these Quilted World Class Level 3 models. In fact, we also talked about how the 1 inch of World Class Relief HD foam is also going to have some delayed recovery type properties, which will probably accentuate the amount of sort of overall memory feel that you're going to experience. Net of all that, what I can tell you is that we definitely noticed some memory feel on these mattresses, particularly when you get up to the plush tight top, and then even more so on the 2 pillow tops. So we would certainly characterize the overall amount of memory feel, both in terms of how much sort of that melting into the bed sensation you get and the amount of sort of slower delayed recovery that you get as above average, albeit just a little above average on those pillow tops, and maybe also on that plush tight top. On the medium firm and the ultra firm, it's less pronounced, so we'd probably classify those as about an average or 5 on our memory foam scale, recognizing that the average mattress made these days does have some memory foam in it. All right, so now we've moved up to level 4 of this quilted portion of the Beautyrest World Class collection. And let's talk about sort of what changes as you move up to this level here. In addition to being able to have access to 4 different feels, which may be something that you're interested in, you're also going to get a little bit more memory foam at this part of the collection. You're going to specifically get a couple types of memory foam in addition to what you already had in level 3. You're going to get an additional layer of that surface touch gel memory foam right up at the top of the mattress underneath the quilt, essentially right next to the other layer. That's going to be present on all 4 of these models. And then you're also going to get at least another 1/2 inch to 1 inch, depends on the model, of that active response max memory foam that's further down into the mattress. And so you're going to have anywhere from 1.5 to 2 inches of that in total across these 4 models. So what that boils down to is anywhere from 1.25 inches to 1.75 inches more memory foam in these level 4 mattresses than what we had in the level 3 mattresses. So that's kind of the big change that you're going to see in terms of the inner components. All right, so now let's get into the specific options that you have available to you at this level. And as I mentioned, there are 4 of them. You're going to have 2 tight tops and 2 pillow tops. The 2 tight tops are a medium and a plush tight top, and then you're going to have a firm and a plush pillow top available as well. Now, in terms of their feels, we would characterize the medium tight top as a 4 on our softness scale, which is a medium firm. And we would characterize the plush as a 6, which is a medium soft. So each of them kind of on one or the other side of a dead medium. Then in terms of the pillow tops, we would characterize the firm pillow top as a 3, which is a firm on our softness scale. And then the plush pillow top, we'd characterize that as a 7, which is a soft on our softness scale. So in terms of the cushioning depth, what we found here was that generally it still did correlate pretty well with softness, particularly for the plusher models. The plush tight top and the plush pillow top, we both felt that their cushioning depth mirrored their softness exactly. We had this one at a 6 and the plush pillow top at a 7. Whereas the firmer ones, we felt like there was a little bit more sinkage and conformance that you would get on the mattress than there was surface softness. So while we had the medium as a 4 on our softness scale, we had it as a 5 on our cushioning depth. And likewise, while we had the firm pillow top as a 3 on our softness scale, we had it as a 4 in terms of cushioning depth. In terms of memory feel, we did talk about how there is anywhere from 1.25 inches to 1.75 inches more memory foam in these models than we had at level 3. That being said, we've also talked in other videos about how this surface touch gel memory foam is a rather fast responding memory foam, and so therefore you're not really getting necessarily a lot of incremental memory feel, so to speak, by adding that additional 3/4 of an inch of that material up at the top of the mattress. And likewise, the additional active response max memory foam doesn't seem to be having a massive impact either. That's probably where more of the change is coming from. We did notice, in short, an increased amount of memory feel on these mattresses, but it wasn't substantial. So overall, we'd still put them kind of in the same general ballpark of a 6 or 7 in terms of our memory feel ratings. And just a reminder, with these characteristics, there is no better or worse. It's just about your personal preferences. And then lastly, bounce. We similarly felt that there wasn't a dramatic change in terms of this characteristic relative to what we described in the level 3 models. You're still going to get an above average amount of bounce. Yes, it's probably mitigated ever so slightly by the additional memory foam, which does have a shock absorbing capability to it. So yes, we would probably put this on balance a little bit lower bounce than their counterparts in level 3, but more or less you're going to be around a 6 or maybe even in some cases a 7 in terms of bounce in these level 4 quilted models as well. All right, so now we have finished going through all of the quilted options in the World Class collection, and we've moved over to the hybrid options. And again, we're going to start at level 3 and move our way up from there. So we did already talk up front about some features that all of these Beautyrest World Class mattresses have in common, including the hybrid versions that we're going to look at now. But just to refresh your memory, some of those big ones were that whole support layer in terms of that 1000 density pocketed coil unit and the edge support, beauty edge perimeter going around it, and also the InfiniCool in the cover, that phase change material that you find in the cover for additional cooling purposes, the 4 handles, and on the inside of the mattress you're going to have that at least 1 inch of that World Class Relief HD foam. You're also going to have some active response max memory foam as well. So all of those are kind of carried across the entire collection here. But other than those things, you are going to find obviously some distinct differences with these hybrid models. Most notably, what you see here is there is no quilting. Obviously, that is one of the key distinctions that Beautyrest uses to define what is a hybrid. They're using a stretch version of the cover, and it is basically just applied right over the premium foams below it. And that is also part of the definition that Beautyrest assigns to the term hybrid, is that they really up the amount of those premium foams and bring them closer to the surface. That's part of the experience they're trying to create with the hybrid models that they offer. So one way that they do that is that each of these hybrid models, level 3 and level 4, is going to have at least 1 inch of that Beautyrest Active Response Max memory foam right up at the top, right below the cover of the mattress. And that is a much more kind of traditional memory foam with a more traditional memory feel than what they use, that surface touch gel memory foam that they use in the quilted models. So it is definitely going to put a lot more of that like memory feel forward in your experience with these hybrid models. There also is just more memory foam in general. You're going to find, generally speaking, on the order of 2.5 inches or so, plus you're also going to have that World Class Relief HD foam, which again has some properties of memory foam to it as well. So all of those factors are going to impact both the feel of these mattresses, which is going to be a more preference-based consideration, but also some of the pressure relieving properties and even some of the conformance properties and kind of matching characteristics that we would describe in terms of who's going to be a better fit for these types of models. So that's pretty much all you need to know in terms of the inner characteristics of these Beautyrest World Class Level 3 hybrid models. So getting into the choices you're going to have in terms of feels, there will be 3 at this Level 3 part of the collection. There's going to be simply a firm, a medium, and a plush. In terms of our ratings, we would characterize the firm as a 3 on our softness scale, so actually as a firm. We would characterize the medium as a 4 and the plush as a 5. So definitely seeing a clear distinction in terms of increasing levels of softness. Likewise with the cushioning depth, we found that the amount of sinkage and conformance that you get on these mattresses tends to exceed the amount of surface softness. And this is quite common with mattresses that have this kind of higher density memory foam used, particularly up at the surface of the mattress. which does have a high surface tension to it. So that creates some additional surface firmness, but ultimately will conform to your body more so over time. So in terms of our cushioning depth ratings, we would characterize the cushioning depths being consistently just a little bit more than the softness levels. So for the firm, we had that as a 4 in cushioning depth. For the medium, we had that as a 5 in cushioning depth. And for the plush, we actually had that as a 7 in terms of cushioning depth. Now, in terms of our memory feel ratings, not surprisingly, given the increased amount of memory foam, the increased amount of higher density memory foam, and putting it up higher, closer to the surface, you're definitely going to get more pronounced memory feel on these mattresses, both in terms of the sort of melting into the bed sensation, as well as in terms of some of the delayed recovery. Although that part, particularly the delayed recovery, does vary a little bit by model. But overall, we would say you're going to get more memory feel than you do on those quilted models. You're going to get something around 7 or even 8, particularly on this plush model. We would probably characterize that as an 8 in terms of our memory feel spectrum. And finally, in terms of bounce, we actually found that the bounce was not really that much negatively impacted, particularly the deep bounce I'm talking about, by the memory foam. Of course, surface bounce is going to be a lot less. Anytime you're putting just a little bit of weight and not interacting with the coils at all, that memory foam is going to just shock absorb that entirely. So you're going to lose some surface and even mid-level bounce in these mattresses with this design, but really the deep bounce was just as strong as on the quilted. In fact, maybe even more pronounced than on some of the quilted mattresses that have more padding between you and the coils. So overall, we would say the bounce is still above average, if not even in the 7 territory in some of these models. All right, so now we've moved up to level 4 of the Beautyrest World Class Hybrid collection. Again, you're going to have 3 models at this level. And in these models, the step-up story is going to be a little bit different. You're going to be, in some cases, replacing memory foam for more of that World Class Relief HD foam. And in another case, you're going to have really just more memory foam. So we could talk about these 2 models a little differently. You have essentially 3 models, a firm and a plush in sort of a more traditional construction, and then you have a medium apex top, which is kind of the top of the line. That one is very unique. It's essentially got 3 inches of that active response max memory foam right up at the top of the mattress. And then what they've done, what makes it an apex top instead of a pillow top or even just a regular hybrid, is that they've added a kind of picture frame of firmer foam going around that memory foam to give some edge support at this top of this kind of pillow top level of the mattress. And I will tell you, we tested this and it really does help provide a much stronger edge, particularly when you're lying on the mattress. It's less effective when you're sitting on the edge of the mattress. But nonetheless, most importantly, in our view as it relates to edge support, is how it performs when you're lying on the edge of the mattress, since that's the thing that actually extends the usable surface area of your mattress. So that mattress is going to be the tallest of all the hybrids, and it's going to have that very unique feature in the apex top. And in terms of these other 2 models, swapping out that memory foam for that World Class Relief HD foam does provide some different feels and also some other benefits based on what I described to be the benefits of that material earlier in the video. So now let's get into the feels of these 3 models. Starting with the firm and the plush, the firm we would characterize as a 3 on our softness scale, so a firm. The plush we would characterize as a 5, so a medium. And the medium apex top, we would characterize that as a 4. So you do have a 3, 4, and a 5 at this level in terms of our softness scale. And in terms of cushioning depth, again here we found a pretty dramatic difference between the amount of softness and the amount of ultimate conformance and sinkage that you're going to experience on these mattresses. So in each case, the cushioning depth was about 2 levels higher than the softness was. So in the case of the firm, we had the cushioning depth overall at a 5. In the case of the plush, we had it at a 7. And in the case of the medium apex top, we had it at a 6. So now we talked about how that often goes along with memory foam mattresses, but it's curious to me that it also was so pronounced in the case of these 2, the firm and the plush, where memory foam was actually taken out of these mattresses. And it gets even more curious when we get to our assessments of the amount of memory feel, which we do feel like increased at this level. We felt like at this level, you're looking at a 7 or an 8 for sure. on these firm and plush, you're definitely noticing a lot of that slow melting sensation, and you're also getting a lot of that slow recovery that memory foam is known for on both of these models, as well as on the Apex top, but that one is more understandable because you do have that big 3-inch layer of memory foam right up at the top. On these ones, it's a little harder to understand because most of the memory foam, or a lot of the memory foam, was replaced with that World Class Relief HD foam, which is ostensibly not a memory foam, but nonetheless, it reinforces my sort of overall sense that this foam most likely does have a lot of those memory foam characteristics, including delayed recovery characteristics, because of the fact that we still see those effects to be so prevalent on the firm and the plush model, in spite of the fact that there's not much memory foam outside of what perhaps that World Class Relief HD may be. Now, in terms of bounce, we would basically characterize these as a little bit less bounce, because at this point now, we're definitely getting mitigated bounce up at the surface and mid-levels of the mattress, and there's enough cushioning on top of the coil unit that, and it is shock absorbing types of material, so it is starting to mitigate the amount of overall bounce in the mattress, but nonetheless, we would still characterize these as a little bit above average amounts of bounce. All right, so there you have it. I hope you found this to be a helpful overview of the entire Beautyrest World Class collection of mattresses, which is brand new for 2025 and beyond. For more helpful information about how to find the right mattress for you, I'd highly recommend going to our website, GoodBed.com, where you're going to be able to find information on all of these models, including our full assessments that we made of these models, which went well beyond what we were able to cover in the course of this video. You're going to be able to find specific pages about each of these models that will succinctly outline the findings from our tests that we performed on them. And you're also going to be able to compare them side by side, whether with each other or with other mattresses that you may be considering. You'll find links to those resources right in the description of this video, so I'd highly recommend checking those out. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I really hope you sleep well.